Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbo, and back this week after a couple of weeks off, Mr. Robert Hagan. How's it going, man?
It has been a busy few weeks. Traveling over to the other side of Oregon for wedding, getting back late the night of what would have been the 4th for the show, and then dealing with some surgery with the wife. So taking care of her over the last few days. So it has been a crazy few weeks. As I was telling you off the show, off camera, this might be a little difficult as the only real sporting event now, other than having the Dodgers Orioles on now, is I've watched pretty much just the Geelong Essendon game, which was a huge victory for Geelong the other day. So a little behind on the sports, let us say.
Gotta catch up. Also, you can fake it. You don't have to tell people you haven't been watching this stuff.
Yeah, I want to be
You
truthful.
can look up the notes and you can figure it out, and you could pretend that you're an expert like they do on all these other talking head shows. They don't watch all this stuff. They just pretend that they do. And that's what's going on. I've watched a lot of baseball. I've said a lot of 4-letter words towards my New York Yankees. It gets
losing
more and
2
more
to
frustrating.
Colorado. Losing 2 to Colorado. That I think
without using your best reliever the entire game. And then you use your best reliever, but you pitched to Shohei Ohtani last night because that's a brilliant move. So, yeah, I'm just kind of sort of waiting for the announcement of Aaron Boone to be let go. That'd be great. I'd be happy. I've been waiting for years. It's not a new development here. As a Yankee fan, just waiting for Aaron Boone to be released.
Maybe they're hot. Maybe they will hire the other Boone, as he made his appearance with the All-Star Celebrity Game.
I don't know.
The wife was
no more Boones ever.
The wife was all excited when I showed her the picture Monday night before the night of her surgery. Brett was playing in the celebrity softball tournament that happened. I think that was filmed on Sunday, Saturday, Sunday. So it was. She was all excited. The Brett Boone was back in whites, Mariner white and blue. So
some Mariner has to win a game, right? Yeah. We'll get to all that and a lot more. Of course, as we have been the last few weeks, first hour will be mostly focused on Major League Baseball, as that is really the only major sport going on right now. I know we slight the WNBA, but don't worry, we slight the NBA too. We don't talk about basketball very much on this show. The Women's World Cup is starting this week. Hopefully, you'll be able to watch some of those games. I talked with Eric Watkins, who was nice enough to take Robert's spot last week about the Gold Cup. Some interesting results near the end of that tournament. USA had some wild finishes. We'll get into that. Your sports-related draft this week at the top of the next hour will be the best male PBA bowlers of all time. That's a really hard list to come up with.
I did it because I thought about you guys as just throw it out there.
The not so good bowlers.
You guys are going up to bowl the PBA regional this weekend. Yep. Excited for that. I made my hotel room reservations. Jimmy and I are going to go up and watch Saturday bowling. Hopefully, one or I know about eight names on that list that are bowling it. So if some of them will make the tournament, make the cut, then Sunday morning it's going to be a fun tournament to go watch.
Yeah, 80 of us will be bowling on Saturday in 2 squads. They'll cut down to about 26, 27 people, and then they will bowl on Sunday until they cut down to 1. I'm just hoping to have a decent 8 games. The more Tony and I have been discussing things and watching, there's a senior event going on right now that's basically using the same oil pattern, and seeing those scores, it seems like the scores are going to be very high. Which, for one, it means that the pattern is not terribly hard, which is great. However, if you're forced to shoot 220 just to make it the Sunday, that's a lot of pressure, and I'm trying not to put that on myself. I just want to go out there. If I average over 200, I'm happy with it, just with everything, being the first PBA regional and stuff. I have zero expectations. I said it last week. I'm guaranteed a top 80. Then I bowled my 300 last week. I feel confident, so I'm guaranteeing top 78. I can beat 2 people. That's my guarantee that I will beat at least 2 people this weekend. We'll talk a lot more about that next week. Hopefully with some positive thoughts on the bowling. But we will see. Of course, we will get into our top 5 wide receivers coming into the NFL season as we continue to kind of piecemeal our preseason activities here for the National Football League. News is going to be picking up a lot in that sport as camps get ready to open up. Some of the rookies are now getting their practices in, and we'll get to a few more things. But we got something that hopefully will bring in a lot of headlines over the next couple of weeks, and that is the Major League Baseball trade deadline. 2 weeks from today, we've yet to get a trade announced. I think we've had some like piecemeal stuff, like a middle reliever for someone you'll never hear of or something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we've had a couple of those over the last few days, but no big headline trades yet. I have a feeling that we will not see a ton of trades, but we will see some big names moved over these next 2 weeks. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. You know, you look at some of these teams and we'll talk about them major, you know, I was high on the St. Louis Cardinals, and
Yep.
you know they're definitely in that sellers division right now. I think they move away from a lot of them, but you know, you look at some of the standings of who could be a buyer, who could be a seller, and I think it's, you know, I think it's probably break it down into thirds almost. You've got the top third that are going to be definite buyers. You've got about, you know, easily bottom third to bottom almost half of who probably are going to be sellers. And then you've got a few that might just stay right where they're at and ride it out. But, you know, as a Yankee fan, sir, you know, you almost have to think that you are a big buyer with what's going on. I mean, you guys 9 games out right now. It's weird to say that, and maybe that's what's very strange is, you know, the TBS game that is on TV right now, Orioles and Dodgers. They keep bringing up the fact that, you know, you look at the Orioles, they're just 1 game back right now, and you look at that division. Yes, the Yankees are 5 games over 500, but this ball club hasn't produced since Aaron Judge has gotten hurt.
The offense is poop. It's complete garbage. It's embarrassing to watch since Aaron Judge went down with his toe injury. Thanks a lot, Dodger Stadium. For that, yes, Yankees are over 500. It sounds great. Yankees are also in dead last. First time they have been in last place at this part of the season since 1990 when they finished last in that division. I have been very much on the Yankees need to do everything they can to trade for Shohei Ohtani, try to make a push with him and hopefully a healthy Judge, and then try to then buy him or extend his contract in the offseason and keep him long term. After seeing how they have come out of this All-Star break, I'm selling. If I'm the New York Yankees, I still want Shohei Ohtani long term, but there are some people that you can get rid of. The only problem is who would even want some of these players? Josh Donaldson pulled a hammy. Not surprising. He could be done for the year, which could be positive for the Yankees anyways, batting 120. Anthony Rizzo has not hit a home run since Judge went down. He was one of the best hitters for the Yankees until the injury to the right fielder and has completely fallen off. DJ LeMahieu's finally showing his age. So it's at this point, who do the Yankees move as far as the big names? You're not moving Stanton. Nobody's going to want like Higashioka. So really at that point, who are the Yankees moving? You're not moving Garrett Cole. Right, all of the other names you have for a bit. So while I think they should not be crazy buyers at this point, unless it's Ohtani, they can't really be sellers either. So They will probably make some moves, maybe for a left fielder, maybe for a third baseman. However, I don't know if the Yankees are in a position right now where any of those like bit players could really help anything right now. That what they need is their players to get healthy. They need Judge back in the lineup. They need Cortez back in the rotation, and they need Loaizaga to bolster that bullpen, who that was fantastic for 2 months and have completely imploded over the last month or so.
And I haven't followed near as much, but Volpe really not living up to the
No,
big hype of what he is.
He's having a rough rookie season.
He's having a rookie season, just kind of bouncing along. I think IKF, he's not in the lineup every day, correct?
He is now. I mean, especially with Judge down. Honestly, IKF was somebody I got on last year. He has been phenomenal as just a utility player. He was a shortstop third baseman for his entire career. Comes to the Yankees, that's what he played, was shortstop third base. He could play catcher. He used to play catcher for other teams that he played for. He's yet to do that for New York. However, he's playing in the outfield, something he's never done in his professional career, and he's done a good job. So IKF has been fantastic for New York. So while you usually think, okay, the Yankees are going to be the buyers, the Mets are going to be buyers, and so on, those teams really struggling. You look at the American League, who's going to be buyers. I do think it's Baltimore. Baltimore's in a fantastic spot. Tampa Bay, what do they really have other than prospects to go out and try to find some rentals? That's usually not what Tampa Bay does. They're usually in this position, and they're still selling off big names to then use for prospects down the road. Houston, you expect to make a move or two. Toronto, maybe as well. But as far as the American League goes, and this will be right down your alley, talk about the Yankees kind of being in that should they, shouldn't they situation. How about your Seattle Mariners? 8 games out of the division, 4.5 out of the wild card, and those Angels who have Ohtani, the best possible piece to trade over the next 2 weeks. They're 9 games out of the division, 5.5 back, and they have to pass at least 4 teams to get a wild card spot. What do those 2 teams in the West do?
I think Seattle has to be a buyer, as many people have been saying. Should just kind of write it out. Listen, Colton Wong has not lived up to what he was doing when he brought him in. Jose Cabrero has been playing well, not high enough standard. Mike Ford has been kind of a fixture in as a DH. I think they could bolster that up. I mean, he has hit the ball a few times, but I think we could bolster our DH extremely well.
The fact that Mike Ford is being a positive member of your offense makes me gag.
And the thing about it is, we need some more offense. You look at Teoscar Hernandez has done okay. Rodriguez having a little bit lower year. Kelnick still not in that groove. I think they could go out and find a big bat to bring in. Who in which position they could do that. I mean, second base could easily be picked up. Dylan Moore plays there. Colton Wong just has not done anything there. Also, Bryce Miller has been an outstanding player for the starting rotation for the Mariners this year, has played quite well. I think it is about time that we, Bryce Miller 6-3 on the season, 3.6 ERA. But I think the big thing is Mariners. I think it's time you move away from Marco Gonzalez. Back on the IL again, has not been playing well in his starts, or he's got a 4-1 record. Not impressive whatsoever against these things. I mean, he's only what is it? Trying to see here. He's won his last 2 outings, but that's been pretty much it. It's been a loss. I think it's time that they move on from him and try to find another starting pitcher in that. And possibly another second baseman that's got a little bit more pop in the bat.
Sorry, I'm trying to find this video. It's kind of a reaction thing here, so we won't have sound on it. But this is Mike Ford. This is what the Yankees think of Mike Ford. This is on John Boy, of course, where they would do their reactions and stuff. This was when he got sent down. But this is their reaction. It was Game 5 of the wild card series, divisional series, or whatever against the Houston Astros. They're all having fun. Everything's great. And then Mike Ford comes and is the pinch hitter. And that's their reaction to seeing him come up to the plate and how sad they were that he was up there. That's how we feel as Yankee fans towards Mike Ford. And the fact he's a better productive hitter. It's not okay. It's not okay. But that's how things work. Anyone else that you think in the American League could be huge sellers come this deadline and could have big pieces to move?
You almost have to think that we've talked about it, but you're almost 100%. The Angels have to be sellers. Oakland has to be a seller too. But what does Oakland have to sell? And we've talked about that. Other than we've thrown out the name Seth Brown.
Right.
I mean, he's about the only one that has been doing anything consistent. But you look, I think Chicago is also the other big seller here, the White Sox. Yep. I think he is the main name that I see moving is Lucas Giolito. I think he is probably the biggest name that's going to come out. If it's not Ohtani, I believe it's going to be Giolito that is the biggest name we hear traded in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, White Sox have some names. Could Tim Anderson get moved? Lance Lynn, he's getting up there in age. He's with the White Sox still. Could either of them get moved? I know Kansas City, obviously, you got to think they're sellers. You go with their closer Barlow. Closers for bad teams usually are a favorite target for people trying to make it to the World Series as they find impact relievers. It's working so great for Texas right now. They traded for Aroldis Chapman a couple of weeks ago, and he has been absolutely fantastic.
Called it
for the Rangers. He's been really, really good. He's got he got the win yesterday, maybe the day before, against the Rays, and also came in and actually got the save. Will Smith, who has been their closer and been really good, came in the 8th inning before Chapman came in and got his first save with the team. So he's been fantastic. So you got to think relievers are going to be on the move like Barlow and those. So to me, it's the AL Central. It's the White Sox and the Royals really that will get picked clean. Cleveland, they're only a game and a half out, so they do have a lot of pieces that you would expect for them to move if they fell out of the race. I just feel like they find themselves in a situation where they cannot sell at this moment. I don't think they're going to be buyers either. I don't think the same with Minnesota. Both of them are just going to try to stand pat, maybe get a reliever or two, some kind of a utility piece to bolster a lineup, but no big moves from those two teams. When you go to the National League, again, you go to the sellers first, because to me, it's the more interesting because it's your World Series prediction with the St. Louis Cardinals. It's my World Series prediction in the San Diego Padres. Padres 8 games out of a wild card spot. The Cardinals are 11 games out. I believe the Cardinals are going to sell some pieces. I do also believe that they are not going to completely tank this team.
No.
And try to reset themselves next year. Same goes for the Padres. Like, I don't think you're going to see the big names for San Diego move. Like Machado is going to be there. Soto is going to be there. Of course, they're not moving Tatis. Absolutely not. Of course. Could we see a Blake Snell move? He's been really good in the rotation. He could bring back a huge truckload of prospects themselves. And really, the Padres could just be looking for decent players that have longer contracts and try to rebuild that way and just kind of shift the way that team is formed right now. They don't need to go crazy prospect heavy because they have a lot of young talent. But then you look at the New York Mets. They went all in as well You had them winning the NL East. They have Verlander and Scherzer on top of a rotation that has not been good. Could we see both of those guys move in the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think, and I have that down there is a big name being moved. Max Scherzer has said he is up for being moving, and I think that is going to be a big one. That will, where could he go just across a borough from Queens to the Bronx?
No,
I don't
I don't see
think
it
so,
happening.
because I don't think there's enough that needs to happen there. But he could be a big name that goes and fills in and goes to, say, bolster the lineup for Miami or for Atlanta.
Well,
I can see
I
that
don't
happen
see them moving him
in division.
Division.
Yeah. Yeah, the biggest thing, like you said it, I thought St. Louis was going to play so much different this last year. The injury bug has really hit this team throughout the year, but I think the two names that come up that will be moving out of this, out of here. Well, there's actually three, and we'll talk about I think the big one is Paul DeJong. I think he could easily be that name that gets moved around quite easily. Anybody that needs a shortstop, and I say this, why couldn't we move a Paul DeJong into a Seattle Mariner second base spot? That would look kind of nice. It'd be nice, but who knows? I'm playing homer at this point with that one.
Of course.
But
that's what we look at over these next 2 weeks is mostly our team, and then you kind of see where all the other pieces move. That's the fun about baseball is, like, yes, there's so many games going on every day. It's tough to keep track of. However, that's why baseball is very regionalized. Like, for a lot of fans out there, that's the team you follow. And you know a lot about your team. You know a good amount about your division, a bit about your league, and then the national, like the other league is non-existent. I was watching the Phillies Padres game on Friday, because that was the first game that started after the All-Star break, and they were discussing things that we could possibly see come the second half, and the play-by-play guy brought up somebody in the American League, and John Kruk goes, I don't know anything that's going on in the American League. Like, he's so focused on the National League, he's so focused on the Phillies and the NL East, that he's like, I have no clue what's going on in the American League. And that's kind of what a lot of fan bases are. It's like the farther you get away from your team as far as where they are in the standings, the less you know what's going on.
And we will bring that up here in a little bit. I'd like you going in that. We'll lead into that in our quick hits. I added some stuff in our quick hits. We'll talk a little bit about that. The other name, there's two other names out of that the St. Louis market that I think might move, and that might be starting pitcher Jordan Montgomery. Great arm, done quite well. He could be on the move. The other name, maybe not so people know him, but Dylan Carlson. I think Dylan Carlson could easily be on the move, whether somebody needing outfield help, hence New York Yankees, or even bringing them into Seattle. Those two names popped out at me for what can we do to fix our lineups, and if St. Louis is going to be the sellers, that's probably a good one there to move.
Yeah, you definitely got to expect somebody like him to move. You brought one on the show notes that I'm very much interested to see where he goes. That's Cody Bellinger, who really has had a resurgence with the Cubs. He's still not a high average hitter, but I think he's kind of figured out his swing. It really fell off with the Dodgers. Has done a good job with Chicago to come up with some big base hits. He had a grand slam this weekend to help the Cubs win a game. They've been a team that has kind of struggled to stay in it, but you got to think that they're going to move some pieces so they could be interesting as well. As far as surprising surprising buyers. Nope. Football talk will be in the second hour. top 5 wide receivers we will get to, sir, in 7 o'clock hour. But a surprise. Talked about it last week, and we've had conversations back and forth. He's the one that brought it up to me. Could the Miami Marlins go all in and try to trade for Shohei Ohtani? Because this is what they're trying to do right now is build this whole Miami market as a sports hub. He brought up the fact that Messi signed with Inter Miami, the MLS squad there that David Beckham owns. So could they get Beckham and Messi and all these international names that are trying to make Miami the sports hub that it used to be for a while, and try to coax Ohtani down there, especially if you could trade for him. There's a ton of prospects that they can move. And yes, you are trading for a rental. Absolutely. But that's a fantastic rental for a couple of months. For a Miami team that is surprising a lot of people, has some good pieces to the team. You add Shohei Ohtani to the pitching staff and the lineup, it's the ultimate rental. And for Miami, it could mean maybe a postseason run.
But my question was, how much would you have to give away? I think that's the biggest part. Are you giving away pieces now, or are you giving away pieces? That's the big question that Miami has to ask itself. In any of these places that is going to jump on the Ohtani bid is, what am I going to have to give away now? And or what am I going to have to give away in the future to make this happen for possibly just a 6-month, 5-month period? I mean, because his contract, I believe, is done at the end of the year, correct?
He's a free agent next year.
So yeah, I mean,
or this offseason.
How much do you give away to have him for a short amount of time?
The Marlins would not care. Go back and look at the Marlins' history. They were created in what, 93? 92, 93, right before the strike and all that. So I forget if it's 92, 93. They win the World Series in 1997. What did they do in the offseason of 1997? Sold
unload
everybody. Yep. Then they rebuilt, made it back to the World Series, defeated the Yankees in 2003 with young players like Miguel Cabrera, Josh Beckett. What did they do after that? Sold everybody. The Marlins are all about compiling for one big run and then getting whatever they can from those players. Now, obviously, if you trade for Ohtani, you're not going to get anything back for him unless somehow you can find some backers to help you pay a ridiculous contract that Ohtani is going to ask for. But I don't think the Marlins would care. If you tell them you get Ohtani and all of a sudden you will make at least the NL championship game, I still don't think, even with Ohtani, would the Marlins be better than the Braves right now? Probably not. But you can make it to the NL championship game if you trade for Ohtani. I think the Marlins do it. And they would sell a couple of years of their future to do so.
I think you got to remember, though, too, that's a totally different ownership that has went through every one of those, too.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that big ownership with Bruce Sherman, who owns the team now. So, I mean,
but
who knows what, it's worked and it showed that it's worked. But, you look at those few people that have owned it, it's really crazy to see 2 World Series championships in 30 years, right at 30 years right now. It's weird. It's weird to think about the Miami Marlins as one of the newest teams and they've been here for 30 years. But you're right in 1993. So
that'll change in a few years when baseball finally expands again. It's happening. It's going to, Eric and I talked about it. It's happening within the next 10 years. We will have 2 new teams, 100%. But that's the thing that I've always argued, though. It's how much do you have to give up to make a run? If I'm out there to try to win a championship, whether it be a World Series in baseball, a Super Bowl in football, whatever, I don't care. Will we be bad for a couple of years afterwards? Yeah. But are we bad now? Like, are we going to win a championship with the way that we're constructed right now? Do the Los Angeles Rams regret what they did by going all in for a year or two? Absolutely not. You know why? They got a ring.
Mm-hmm.
There's only a few teams in sports history that have this long-lasting power. As the Patriots for a while, the Chiefs are there right now. They've only won 2 Super Bowls in this time. They could definitely add more to it. What about baseball? What teams are winning every year?
Right.
If you go back in the last 15 years, who's won more than 2 titles? The Giants won 3 in 5 years and then have kind of fallen off. Other than that, I don't think anyone's won more than 2. So you go all in and get your 1.
So you've got basically 66 games. Well, the Marlins, I was just looking. Marlins have 66 games left in the season. Right now, they are the bottom team. Well, they're tied with Philadelphia, Arizona for the 5-6 spot. They're in within. So, I mean, that's a great point. So do they unload just to get a big push? I don't think they'll catch Atlanta.
No. This would be
At
to
all.
get into a wild card and
It's
make the
gonna be
run
a
in the
wild card.
playoffs.
Yeah. So
100%.
yeah, just kind of. I think it depends on how much they're willing to give away, and you look at that. I'm looking at their depth chart right now. I mean, who would you give away that is out of that?
Oh, it's all you don't need to look at
if they give away any part of it.
You do not look at your major league roster. If I am any team, and we'll just move on to this Ohtani talk because we're already there. If I want Ohtani, and I feel like even if I don't care if he's a rental for just this year. If you think Ohtani can help you get to the World Series, where you feel like that's just the piece you need, you're close enough, and you just want to go all in, I take my prospect list. And with the top, it's like just the top 10 prospects, you hand it in front of the Angels and say, you pick 4 of them. I don't care who. You can take any of the 4 prospects you really like on our top 10. You give us Ohtani. That's what I do. Now, obviously, there are some teams where their prospect lists are ridiculous and they won't go that route, but I don't think there are going to be teams that go for a big trade anyways. I don't see the Orioles doing this. I don't see the Reds doing this, who have ridiculous prospects out there. But if I'm a team that's in contention, that's what I say with the Yankees. I give you a list of, here's our top 10 prospects. Pick any 4 that you want. I don't care. You could take the top 4 if those are the names that you find out. But if you think that one of our prospects are ranked wrong, you take the best 4 that you think we have on our team. We will take Ohtani for 2 months. And hopefully longer if we can convince him to stay and sign our $700 million contract.
And that's the other question I was thinking and was looking at. I actually just pulled up Ohtani's contract and was looking. Not sure. Does he have a trade clause within where he wants to go? I mean, you would look at some of these.
I think he has say in it.
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering, because a lot of these players now have says on where they want to go, if they want to go, and
but still, I offer.
Them. Well, it depends on how do they better themselves. I think it's what.
Just because I offer something and then Ohtani turns me down does not make my prospects go away. It's worth going for it. I think.
I think
it'll fail.
I think it's worth listening to. I think a lot of these owners.
But if you're the Angels, what are you asking for? Because if you're the Angels, I have a feeling that you're not keeping Ohtani, or you would have signed him already. If you have not offered Ohtani over $600 million right now, you just already know that there's zero chance of keeping him, and you are destined to your fate. So you have to move him.
And that's
you don't have Trout for at least another month. The team is imploding. The only team you can beat are my horrible Yankees right now. You have to move him. So, what are you asking for?
Right? Can you answer that question?
Oh, Ohtani 100% better than Judge.
Yeah,
100%. We had this argument many times. Judge had the better season last year. He broke records. Ohtani overall the better player, and Ohtani is having a year this year just batting that is on par with Judge. It is insane how close the stats are where Judge was last year to where Ohtani batting wise is this year. Ohtani even has a better average than Judge did last year, a better OPS. Oh yeah, and he's a really good pitcher on top of it. So yeah, Ohtani better than Judge. Period. I will not argue that. And that is why Judge got $500 million, and Ohtani's his contract should have started with a 7.
Yeah. So here's my thing with thinking about this, and this was the biggest headline coming in was LA had to make a run for it this year because this was the final year with Trout and Ohtani. We knew that going into the season, and now I think the biggest thing that LA's got to do is they've got to get some youth in return. They're getting ready to lose all these guys, get as many draft picks as they can, get as many young talent as they can, because next year they're probably going to stink even worse unless they get somebody that is a decent bat right now ready to go.
So again, you're the Angels. What do you ask for? What is your don't even call us unless you're offering this line?
I think it's got to be multiple first-year picks for at least 2 to 3 years.
They don't trade picks. They don't trade picks in Major League Baseball.
That's stupid. They need to do that.
No, they don't, because the MLB draft nobody cares about.
Goes on forever. You've got to have, I think, at least 5 minor leaguers that have to be top 5 in there, and probably a veteran somewhere in the stats to even probably get us.
I offer you 4 top 100 MLB prospects. You taking it?
I would probably say yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. And that'll bring up to our next topic here in a second. But before this completely implodes, and it already has, as I'm seeing more scores come in, it's every 2 seconds. Let's go ahead and do a scoreboard update. There you go. There's your scoreboard update. It sucks. Moving on. No, I'm just kidding. How about this crazy game going on in Atlanta right now? Atlanta Braves leading 13-12 in the 7th inning with the Diamondbacks. Could be a possible playoff preview. That is a lot of fun. Royals put up 7 runs in the first few innings. Why do I know that? Because I have Scooble in fantasy. That worked out really well for me. Oh, yeah. The Guardians scored 10 runs today against the Pirates. How do I know that? I have Mitch Keller, too. My pitching this week, horrendous. Absolutely garbage. A couple other close games. Miami and the Cardinals right now, 2-1 in the 7th. Texas and the Rays in a really good one, 1-0 Texas over Tampa Bay right now, 1-0 in the 6th. Dodgers over the Orioles, 6-1 in the 7th. So the Yankees can come away with a win. Maybe Blue Jays losing to the Padres can sneak in a game, but probably it's the Yankees. They're not going to. Let's be honest, right? But that does bring me to what I was talking about with Randy's Believe It or Not, which is the Young Major League Baseball Stars edition. All right. And I'm just going to start off with one I was going to bring up in a little bit later. But this is not really a believe it or not, but I just want to throw it in there. How much should teams cherish their prospects? We've seen a ton of teams call up a lot of names lately, and there's a lot of hype around them. However, we see prospects moved all the time. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. How many times have you looked at a trade and go, oh my God, they traded for this veteran, but they gave up this fantastic player who nobody really knew of, and he came out and was absolutely fantastic. There's other times where hey, the fantastic player continued to be fantastic and the prospect failed. So how much do teams need to be cherishing these prospects?
I think they need to look at them. I mean, the bad part is you know, the Seattle. Here's a good example. Seattle Mariners were all about Jared Kelnick 3 years ago, and he has not really lived up to the hype that was around him. But you look at and he's putting up okay number now. But then you look at like teams of Baltimore this year who keep calling up people
Oh
and
man,
they keep producing.
they're calling up prospects that are getting into the way of the other prospects that they just
Yes.
called up 2 weeks ago.
So, but here's the thing about that too is we just watched some unbelievable College World Series less than a month ago, and some of the talent that we have watched, and you and I have said it, even the talent in NAIA
Yeah.
that are not getting the calls
Yeah.
up.
I don't know if you've noticed
there's
because
some
you
great
weren't on
talent.
you weren't on the show last week. Do you know how many NAIA players got drafted? Two players got drafted. One of them we watched in the World Series from Hope International. But yeah,
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. But Baltimore's proven it this year. They are playing quite well with who they're bringing in, and for them to be one game back out of the lead behind Tampa Bay, who started the year like a house of fire, it's just phenomenal what the youth of the players are nowadays. So,
All right, so we get into actual, believe it or not, questions. Still working on these young Major League Baseball stars. Talking about all these names that got called up just in the last 3 days. Pittsburgh called up starting pitcher Quinn Priester, who struggled yesterday, but it was his first start. Shortstop, I can never say his first name, but Piguero, the shortstop for the Pirates. And then their catcher, Andy Rodriguez, to add to Henry Davis, who could play catcher, but he's mostly been playing outfield for the Pirates. So that's 4 rookies that they have called up in the last month or so that are going to get big playing time for the Pirates. Also, the Reds, who have some guy named Ellie De La Cruz, who's been absolutely on fire. They just called up their other big prospect, Christian Encarnacion Strand, which, by the way, congratulations, Christian, for having the new longest name in Major League Baseball history, though he just puts Encarnacion on the back. He doesn't have the whole thing. So those are 4 big names that have come up for 2 teams that have already brought up a handful of prospects each. So believe it or not, the National League Central, which we made fun of back in April, but it turned out to be decent for the most part this year, other than the Cardinals for some reason. The National League Central will be the best division in baseball within 3 years.
wow. I'm gonna lean yes here a little bit, just because of some of the youth and watching what Cincinnati has done with Indy and what he has done playing well. So I'm gonna jump out on a limb and say yes.
I'm gonna say yes too. There's some fantastic divisions right now. Obviously, the AL East is top to bottom the best division in baseball, with the Yankees in last, but 5 games over 500. But some of those teams will rotate. Boston is trying to work out some prospects. Are the Yankees going to completely implode with some of the moves that they are making? You got to believe Baltimore is on the rise and they're going to be up there to stay. Tampa Bay, you just stop questioning that team. As long as they have the same ownership, the same management, and the same coach, we can never question what that team is going to do. And Toronto had a lot of fantastic young stars that are starting to get into veteran status and continue to get better. So that could be a question mark there. The NL West has been deeper than expected, but yeah, there are some fantastic names in that NL Central, and I don't think any of them are going to get moved. So I'm going to say yes as well. We talked about Piguero getting called up for the Pirates. So he also gets up there with Tatis Jr., Wander Franco, Ellie De La Cruz, Matt McLain, some really young shortstops that have been called up recently You also have 4 shortstops in the current top 10 MLB prospects list. Jackson Holliday, who's the number 1 guy, obviously, with the Baltimore Orioles. Marcelo Mayer with Boston. Jordan Lawler with Arizona. Jackson Merrill for San Diego. Are we going to see the best crop of shortstops ever at one time? Obviously, I believe the best was in that late 90s, early 2000s era. You had A-Rod, you had Derek Jeter, Nomar Garcia-Parra, Omar Vizquel was up there as well. Is this class in the next couple of years, when they all get called up, going to be even better than what we saw back then?
That's a tough one, because you and I were living. Well, I was just out of high school when this group was coming in and going through, and that also still included Cal Ripken and some of those others.
That's true. That's true.
And so I'm gonna. I have to be shown it, and yes, we have seen it with Elly and what he is going to be doing. I'm still going to lean a little bit to the old school, the 90s and 2000, that group of players, but they are well talented. They are great. If Fernando plays anything like his father did later in his career, I think he will be one of those names. But I'm gonna stay with the 90s 2000 group. I don't think it is the top group ever to play.
Didn't even go homer and add Anthony Volpe out there. I mean, he's batting 200, so I can't really say he's a fantastic shortstop right now. Great defender, but the bat just has not worked out. He needs to go eat some more chicken parm. But it's neither here nor there. One more real quick for you. Just from what we have seen with some of the talent called up, especially Elly De La Cruz, and the size of that man playing shortstop.
6'5" or 6'6".
Have things kind of rotated a little bit, and we're actually getting ridiculous athletes back in baseball? We kind of went away from that for a while. Everyone kind of shifted towards football and shifted towards basketball, and baseball really had to look in different places, Japan, Dominican Republic, to kind of fill out rosters. Now, obviously, those 2 places are still cycling through fantastic prospects, but we're getting fantastic players here in the U.S. as well that are choosing baseball over these other sports. Are we going to see the best athletes now in Major League Baseball? Where there for a while, it was like, these are the players that weren't going to be good enough to play these other sports, and that's who we ended up getting. Has it changed?
I think it's starting to a little bit. I mean, we get to the biggest conversation I hear anymore is why some of the kids won't play. We'll drop down here really quick to the junior high level, and some of these kids don't want to play because they're afraid of getting hurt. And I think that's the biggest thing that we're seeing, is a lot of the numbers have declined, especially like in Pullman. The cross country team has gotten so much bigger because the less kids want to get hurt, and so they're not playing football. And I see that starting to go that way. A lot of these upcoming kids are not wanting to get the injuries and not doing that, and hence I think we're going to see a climb in some of these other sports. Now you look at Elly 6'5". Go figure. He does not look over 200 pounds, but 6'5", 200 pounds, and playing third base, shortstop. I think he's played both positions, but I think it is. I think the bigger athletes, the stronger athletes, they're going to start coming to the baseball side.
One other reason why I think it's changing for baseball, they're letting them have fun again. The NFL is kind of getting there with their touchdown celebrations and letting them celebrate and goof around. But Major League Baseball really had a resurgence after Ken Griffey Jr. came up, had the backwards hat, and made baseball cool again. And then you had the crazy home run stuff. But I mean, you look at some of these players having fun. Ohtani's bat flip last night was insane. I hated to see it, but he was having fun. I mean, you get the San Diego Padres going nuts with some of their young talent, and Soto and Tatis and Machado. Every team, it seems like, now has a home run celebration. Many of them are contrived, and we're like, well, they're doing this, so we have to do it too. However, that shows up in highlight videos. That shows up on TikTok videos. These young athletes are seeing this and going, that looks like a lot of fun. We want to do it too.
And the big thing about that is too, and you kind of hit it on the nose, but these players that are playing now are fans of other players
Yeah.
that they're playing with or they're competing against. They want to watch them. They want to be a part of what this guy's doing, or you being like, I was there to see this happen. I was there. You look at it, the home run derby has gotten to the point where it's crazy to watch, and all of the players are out there supporting, Vlad out there right with him. Even the guys out there following Julio around. It was these players we watch now are such fans of everybody else that they're playing with. It has become a blast to watch them, and I think that's the big thing.
And it also helps that MLB The Show is the best sports game out there because Madden is completely imploded and has become microtransactioned out. And while MLB The Show has those same issues, the game is still really good. All right, hit us with some quick hits in the world of baseball.
So a couple of things, big things. One today was the signing of Paul Skeens, the number one pick for Pittsburgh. They signed him to a $9.2 million deal with with a big bonus. He does break the record by almost $1 million, $800,000 over the previous number one deal at 8.4. But the bigger news I heard today, and I was excited, maybe this is in a great move for the MLB, but how about the MLB is taking over production of all Arizona Diamondbacks baseball games. So my question to you, could this end the blackouts for all teams and possibly be that it will be MLB will run every bit of the productions for all of the baseball teams?
I mean, they're just doing it until they find a new suitor because they have all the weird financial issues with some of these companies. What is a Bally Sports that's completely falling apart? I still don't think that did they say that they are taking the blackouts away from Arizona?
From Arizona, yep.
So that's
the
positive,
locals will be,
but I don't see it becoming a league-wide thing. Does it need to be?
Nice.
Absolutely. It's a mess and horrible. And we bring this up every few weeks. We don't get it too bad. We just have the Mariners that we lock out. Now, obviously, if you're a Mariners fan, you want to watch them. And Root Sports is like off of every cable company now because they think they deserve more money than what they're getting, and we get all these contract disputes. It's going on everywhere. Everything, all the prices are going up, and nobody wants to pay them. That's why the actors and all the Hollywood workers are on strike right now because there's a complete mess there. So this is our life for a little bit, but it needs to be fixed. I feel bad for the people in the Midwest where you could live in like Iowa, where you would have to travel hours to go watch a baseball game, but you have 7 teams that are blacked out. It's a mess. It's a total mess. And I agree, it needs to go away. And I would love for this to be a sign for that. But I don't believe it. I don't think we are going to get away from blackouts within the next 5 years. Maybe the next CBA, maybe when they expand to 2 new teams. Who knows? But I don't see it anytime soon. I really wish. But, I mean, I can't say anything because, who would have thought the NFL Sunday Ticket would leave DirecTV to go to YouTube? So I guess anything is possible.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our weekly awards. This one was difficult because we only had a few days really to go off of as the All-Star break concluded last week. So we really only had the 3-4 days to go from. I'm going to go with Kyle Tucker. He was really good, 7 of 12 in his series against the Angels. He had that great 4 of 5 game against Los Angeles on Sunday, and that big comeback win. Had a home run, 2 doubles, and 6 RBI. So Kyle Tucker is my batter of the week.
I'm going with the Cubby that we were talking about that's had kind of a resurgence after getting to Chicago. I'm going to go Cody Bellinger. Man, he played in 3 games, had 3 home runs, one of which you did say the grand slam the other day, 6 RBIs. Out of his 4 hits, 3 of them were for the home run. So just 2 strikeouts, so he has been playing quite well. For me, for reliever. I'm gonna go reliever for the pitcher of the week, and I'm gonna go Devin Williams from Milwaukee. He had 3 save opportunities and got every one of them. No runs, no hits, 5 strikeouts in the 6 batters he faced.
Yeah, he's been really, really good for that team. They swept the Reds this weekend, which put them in first place in the NL Central, and that was a very big series. Eric and I kind of previewed that last week. I'm going to stay right with you with the Milwaukee Brewers. I'm going to go Corbin Burnes, who went 6 innings in his start, gave up 2 hits, 2 walks, no runs allowed, and he struck out 13. 13 batters struck out in just 6 innings pitched. And the big thing is, he nearly passed out on the mound in the 5th inning. I was at work, and they were showing highlights of different games. And just to see him kind of step off the mound and nearly go to his knees because he just got so shaky and dizzy out there, got some water, kind of reset himself. Not only continued to pitch, but continued to pitch really well. Got out of the 5th and then pitched the 6th inning as well. So Corbin Burnes, my standout pitcher of the week.
Heat exhaustion has been extremely crazy
it's
all
so hot.
over.
It's
all
so
over
hot
the nation.
everywhere.
Because even I even made a comment to Denise watching Facebook Reels today that country music singer Jason Aldean walked off of the stage in the middle of a song because he felt like he was ready to pass out from heat exhaustion. It's just crazy.
There. It's everywhere too. It's not. It's the whole country, the whole world, basically right now is just in flames. All right. Let's get to our power rankings. You gave us your power rankings last week, even though you weren't here. Let's see what changed. Anything change for you?
For me, I'm going to shift it up and down just a little bit, and it's because of how they played this week. But I'm going to keep Atlanta number 1. And, I was on the show and said a few weeks ago, I was wrong about them. I'll keep saying I was wrong about them until the end of the season. I was wrong about Atlanta. But I'm going to go Atlanta as my number 1. Number 2, I'm going to move up Denny's Baltimore Orioles, and it's
about time. It's about
not
time,
because
sir.
Not because the Ravens are there, but because they've just been playing, and they outplayed Tampa Bay this week. A little bit better.
Throw a Ravens reference into an MLB power rankings?
I did. So I moved them up, and then I'm going to keep the bottom 2 the same. I'm going to keep the Dodgers 4, and I'm going to keep the Rangers at 5.
For me, I'm keeping my top 4 the same as I did last week. Atlanta 1, Baltimore over Tampa Bay just barely. I know the Rays are leading in that division, but I think Baltimore is more on the upswing right now. Dodgers at 4, and for me, I'm going to go with another AL East team and the Toronto Blue Jays, who today had won their first 4 games out of the break. The bats are really starting to turn things around. They were losing to the Padres today, but you can't win every single game. And I really think that they are going to be a tough team to beat come the playoffs. I do think that they're going to make it, which makes it even more difficult for my Yankees to get in. But that AL East just continues to be really brutal right now. And with that said, it's probably still going to be Houston being the AL representative in the World Series because we just can't avoid that anymore. But the AL East has been really, really good. You are watching the R&R Sports Report, our 140th edition of this show, and getting ready to start year number 4 here with this program. We'll be back in the LCSC studio in about 2 months or so, but enjoying our summer break edition and getting a lot of baseball talk going on. We'll start trying to get more interviews going on as some of the student athletes come back and get their workout in. By the way, I talked to Alicia last week as we were kind of going over some stuff and getting ready for the start of the fall seasons. There, more than half of the LCSC volleyball team is new. A lot of transfers coming in, a lot of changes. Obviously, LC had a lot of seniors graduate and a couple other changes go on. So you're going to have a new head coach and a lot of new faces on that team. Very excited to see how they get going. Obviously, cross country will get started as well in the fall. Golf will get going. A couple of tennis events usually play out during the fall, but a lot will be happening here LC wise. We have not talked to Warriors very much, but we'll get a lot more into that. We'll get a lot more into high school sports as well, as they're probably less than a month away from getting into their camps. So,
well, I know Washington, we just finished up. They had a major camp 2 weeks ago for up in Spokane, up at Cheney. High school workouts are lifting in right now. They're doing a lot of that cross country. Our friend Brian McElroy, he has been working out with the cross country team, doing their summer runs early in the morning.
Chase has done a few runs this summer.
Yeah, so they are working during the off season just as much. So, but excited for them to hit the ground running.
Yeah, I just had Stefan from the Tribune message me this weekend asking if I could cover a couple of the teams for their previews. So it's getting close. We're getting about ready for these local sports and the NFL start and all that. So a lot more sports will be talked about coming soon. But let's get to it. Sports-related draft. Congratulations to Eric picking up his first ever win in the sports-related draft. He's now tied with Denny Grubb for third place all time on this contest, well behind you and me at the moment, but that's okay. It did break your winning streak, so that's really all that mattered. That's all I cared about, was making sure your winning streak was snapped to help that you were not here. But congratulations to Eric. I guess I did it to myself, not keeping Aaron Judge and Jose Altuve as my best father-son duo. I chickened out of it, and it probably cost me, but it is your week to come up with the draft this week. What do you got this week?
Well, for me, why I went this direction was because of you and a few of our buddies that are getting ready to, Dwayne, stick around because you'll end up voting for me. I'm also 100%. No, listen, Ray, we've talked about you getting ready to take on this tournament for a while. I'm impressed. I wish I had the ability to do it, because
I don't know if I have the ability to do it. I'm just doing it. I had the money to do it. All right. I had the $300 to enter myself into this tournament.
There is stipulations to it. You had to have a 200 average. I'm just below that in a USBC, but the four of you guys are going up and going to do a PBA bowling. And I thought, we got to compare some of these bowlers, of some of the greatest bowlers of all time, PBA bowlers. Yeah. And they're kind of in their down weeks right now.
Let's compare Randy Isbell with the 6 greatest bowlers of all time.
I tell you what, I'm hoping there's some other names in that list that are going to be coming up. I didn't count how many exactly are on that list that was posted, but I need to do so. But I wanted to talk a little bowling a little bit more this week, and so
absolutely,
I think we got 100% the top 6 by far with our 3
I think
that we came up. I think hands down are the top 6. It just kind of depends on how we paired them up, who gets the biggest one. So I picked the topic, so you get to go first. And I might agree, I might disagree with your first pick.
Listen, it's still slightly controversial to say for some reason. However, if you disagree with this top pick, you just hate two-handed bowling so much that you just cannot rely on it. Two-handed bowling is here to stay. So much so, if you ever go to a youth event, 90% of the bowlers are two-handed. It's where it's going, and we could be against it or for it or whatever. I'm not a two-handed bowler, but I'm not against it. You bowl however you want to bowl. It's what I try to tell people all the time. I'm not a great instructor in the game of bowling, but when people do come and ask me about ideas or opinions or what they need to change, I go, my approach has been simple. Find something that feels comfortable to you, that makes the ball roll the way it's supposed to roll, and then just do it enough where you can do it consistently. Consistency is the main thing. I don't care what you do, as long as you're getting the ball rolling towards the 1-3 pocket or the 1-2 pocket if you're a left-hander. Period.
Well,
that's all you got to do.
we talked about this a lot, and I've said this to you, and why this brings up. You say it's being consistent, but I went to the classes. I'm a certified coach and all that. And
I
I've
don't.
watched so many
How long does
people
it
come.
last? Because I think I am too. Still, I went to a couple
Yeah,
classes.
and so I always remember our buddy Chicken Wing, Eric Glasson, and I always looked at Lance and I told him, like, God, I wish he would get out of trying to bring the ball around with there's so much pressure on that elbow. And Lance said, as long as he kept reminding me, as long as he gets to the bottom and his release is straight, you're fine. It's the same with Jacob Buttroff, and you watch Jacob Buttroff, right, who is on the tour. It's that same release.
Yeah.
So
The
as
way
long as we get it.
the way I always say it to people that are just getting into bowling and they want to improve, just go watch a PBA event on TV. There's usually 5 bowlers on an event. Sometimes the number of bowlers in an event will change based on the format. There's usually 5 bowlers. You're going to see 5 different approaches.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the two-hander bowlers, they do it differently.
Mm-hmm.
So it is what it is. But with that being said, the greatest bowler of all time is still going on right now. Jason Belmonte has destroyed the bowling world. It's not even, oh, well, he's just bowling against these new bowlers and they're not as good as they used to be. Oh, the equipment is good. Oh, he's a two-handed bowler. Well, there's a lot of two-handed bowlers. They all use the same equipment, and they're all, pretty darn good. You just look at the numbers. But Jason Belmonte dominates everything. 15 major championships, 5 more than any other bowler ever. Oh, by the way, he only shows up for a couple months because he still lives in Australia. So he will come stateside for about a 2-3 month period and go crazy with the bowling world, do all the majors, and go back home. He's not doing all these smaller events, which is why he only has 31 titles, which is still 7th all time. To think about that, almost half of his titles are major wins because he just doesn't bowl these other tournaments because he doesn't have time because he's spending time with his family. It's just absolutely insane. He has the record for the highest average in a yearly season. He has the highest average ever in a single tournament. I think it was like almost 250 for an entire tournament. He was nearly 230 one year as far as average goes, but then I realized that those had not been updated. He may have topped himself since then, since no one else is really catching him. I mean, you look at some of the great talents like Anthony Simonson and stuff, but nobody's catching Belmo. He shows up and just wins. I mean, the stat that I saw was set till 2000, but there were like 20 events he's entered that he did not cash in his entire PBA career. It's like a 90% cash rate for him. No one's beating that ever. He's the greatest bowler of all time, period.
Yeah, and the thing about it is he's 39 years old. So, I mean, he's still got a few years before he hits the 50 tournament. Actually, he turns, I think his birthday's coming up. I think he turns 40 here in the next week or two. But
I will say one criticism towards Jason Belmonte. He is trying way too hard to get his one finger boom thing to become a thing. It's cool when it's just in the moment, it's organic, but he'll win a tournament and he looks at the crowd and he's trying to be a professional wrestler. Like, oh, I'm doing it. Ready? You're going to do it with me. And then he does it. It's like, it's not as cool. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a good pick. The only reason I don't go with him first, and I knew you were going to take Belmo first, is I'm going to go with the guy that's got the most titles by far. And he was so dominant in the mid 90s all the way up to the 2000s. And that's Walter Wade Williams Jr. I mean, this guy's got 47 titles, already a Hall of Famer. Yes,
of course.
Belmo's going to get there. I'm going to say that right now. Belmo's already going to be there. But 47 titles, 8 majors. Yes, he's got 7 left majors, but he's a 7-time player of the year. He's won it. He's won 16 times on the PBA 50 with 3 majors there. He was the first bowler to surpass $2 million. He was the highest winning bowler in a season until Kyle Troop beat him in 2021, but he had made over 400. I want to say right at $420,000 was the highest until Kyle Troop beat him out in 2021. He still is the highest season spare percentage holder, where he shoots and makes 88% of his spares. Hence the name Deadeye.
Your other stat, the single pin conversion rate is insane.
Yeah, and so the single pin can spare in 2005, 2006, he went 475 for 475. He hit 100% on all of his single spares. That's saying a lot when his spare he was shooting at was a 10 pin. As in the the mid 90s, didn't have the a lot of the reactive balls as they did, and it was a little tougher shooting the 10 pin. But and the other one I think was the biggest one is he was most consecutive seasons with at least one tour title. That's crazy. He started his career early mid 80s and he finishes. He still does senior events now. Yeah. Oh yeah, by the way, he also has 9 horseshoe competition.
I was also going to say, by the way, he also bowls two-handed now.
I have seen him bowl two-handed.
So Walter Ray Williams Jr. has said two-handed bowling is the way of the future. So Belmo is the greatest of all time. But no, Walter Ray Williams Jr. was one that I loved watching when I was growing up. I watched a lot of those tournaments in the 90s. Obviously, my family was big into bowling as I was growing up, and that's kind of what stuck me to the sport. I grew up in Imperial Lanes. Let's just say that is period. But there you go. Let's get to our second round. And I still don't know if I've ever really watched him bowl. I've seen some highlights, but obviously he was before my time. But Earl Anthony was the GOAT before any of these other guys really took over. He has 43 career titles, which is second all time just to Walter Ray Williams Jr. 10 major championships, which was the top amongst all bowlers before Belmo came on the scene. 6 of those 10 major championships were PBA national championships. So obviously I didn't watch him a ton because he was a bit before my time, but Earl Anthony was your childhood hero, I'm sure, but just a little bit before my time.
I did meet him years ago and had a chance to watch him bowl, but he was part of my trivia question I had for Denny, but Denny has been off and on so much.
He's been busy. Busy.
So Earl Anthony is one of those guys. He is a Pacific Northwest guy. He is from Tacoma area, so he's up here all the time. And you're right. He was probably the best bowler out on the circuit, prior to prior to some of these other guys.
Well, Earl Anthony was up here all the time until he passed away 20 years ago. But
yeah, and that's the thing. It's crazy to think it's been that long since he's passed away. My second one, I'm going with another Hall of Famer, and that's PDW, Mr. Antics himself, Pete Weber.
I can't stand him.
I think a lot of people don't like him, but it's because of his antics and how he talks about it. But I'll get to that in just a second. Let's talk about his credentials. I mean, 37 PBA titles, 10 majors. That's 4th all time. He's got 13 PBA 50 titles, 5 majors there. The one that really got me is he only has 2 Player of the Year titles, but that is for the seniors. He never had one in the regular PBA. He was always beat out by somebody else, but it's crazy. I think some big things with him. He had won 4 consecutive tournaments in a row for the PBA 50. He is one of 5 father-son combinations that have won on the PBA tour. Other notable ones is besides Pete and Dick Weber, has to be Don and Jimmy Johnson. The ones right now you hear all the time, Guppy and Kyle Troop. He's part of some of those big names, but he was noted for a lot of his antics of what he did on the lanes from him beating and winning a tournament and basically beating out Michael Haugen Jr. for his first title. And he says he ain't getting his first win against me. No way. As he turns and faces him and says this, it's kind of crazy. You watch the video to the point of him yelling and talking to a photographer about taking pictures in his backswing and getting that. But the biggest one is when he beat Michael Fagan at the U.S. Open. finally surpassing his dad. His biggest,
Mm-hmm.
most notable is his quote that he did, and it was basically, "I did it, number 5. Are you kidding me? That's right. Who do you think you are? I am." His biggest quote, and then
He butchered whatever he was going to say. Oh yeah, by the way, he was yelling at a child.
yes, he was yelling at child because he thought he was distracted him during the thing. But you have to admit, though, he was a wrestling fan and
Yeah.
did bring the
And you know what?
DX,
If this
the
was
DX
only
shop.
TV stuff, yeah. By the way, come up with something original than a DX drop. By the way, he was doing the DX drop completely wrong. DX, you cross the arms. And Pete Weber just was like, look at my old dick. That was Pete Weber. I'm a wrestling fan. I don't go around doing that. You do. I've seen you do it. However, again, if it was just TV, and I get it, he was trying to be the heel for the PBA to try to get people to watch so other people would tune in to see if other people could beat him. He would say things to, I've watched recently his match with Jason Belmonte, where Belmo kept setting his towel on Pete Weber's ball and got him all mad. And he told him, you better not miss. Well, Belmo didn't miss because Belmo is just that good. But he's trying to be the heel to get people to watch. That's all fine and good. But he's a jerk off the camera too. And he still is. There's video out there of him just 2 years ago, I want to say, going off on someone's wife because she cheered for him while he was facing Pete Weber, and he lost his mind and crotch chopped her or whatever. Just stupid. He drives me nuts. He's a dirty old man that needs to retire and go seek anger management. Unlike
he still has over 50 titles. You can't take that away from him.
That's fine. But he's not as cool as Norm Duke. Norm Duke does not have 50 titles, but he has 40, which is third all time. 7 major titles, 6 titles in the PBA 50. But what I love most is he turned pro in 1982, and he won 2 PBA titles, not PBA 50 titles, PBA titles in 2019 in back-to-back weeks. Most beloved player ever on the PBA. I think a lot of people would agree. You go back and watch the team events that they were doing, and the very last year he was able to do it before he retired from the PBA tour. They let him throw the last shot for the other team and kind of celebrated his career. He had 3 consecutive 300s in an event over a couple of rounds, not in one set, back in 1996. Over 70 300 games on the PBA tour. I have 7 total, and none of them in those kind of competitions. And he's done it forever. And what I love the most is his rev rate is so low. I think I have no rev rate. That's what I worry about this weekend. Like, I cannot keep up with some of the rev rate that goes on in some of these tournaments. I think I have more rev rate than Norm Duke ever has. And he still makes it happen. You watch tournaments or you watch qualifiers where they have just disintegrated the lanes and everyone is throwing it 30 boards from left to right and making it hook all over the lane. And here's Norm Duke just rolling it up 5. Just straight as an arrow over to the left. And that's Norm Duke. He's fantastic. Probably my favorite player of all time. But go ahead. Who's your last pick?
My last one.
Of course, Robert would be that.
But. My last one has got to be the original cranker. That's what we're going to call it. And it's got to be Mark Roth. Mark Roth, and that was before your time, sir. You know, you weren't even born yet when he was out there winning championships. But he ended up with 34 titles. Yeah, 34 titles. 2 majors, and that was he's 6th all time. 4-time player of the year. 3 years in a row. He in 77, 78, 79, and also in 84. He was big with his doubles partner, Marshall Holman, and him won 3 big doubles tournament. And now the PBA's doubles tournament is named after Marshall Holman and Mark Roth. Very beloved man, just like Norm Duke. He is a fan favorite with all of the tour now that, but he is one of the ones that's noted for his big thing was, was picking up he was the first person to pick up the 7-10 split on TV. In 19 years before that, nobody had ever got close. He picks it up in 1980 and is able to pick it up on TV. It's only happened 3 other times since then, twice in 91, and then once here in 2021, the Ginger Assassin Anthony Newer picked it up on TV. I actually was remembering watching that one live as it was on TV, pick it up, but the man was known as the original cranker, and he's the first one that could start making the ball move. And back then, the balls were still urethane and rubber, and he was cranking them out, and he still was till the time that he died, and he was still bowling quite well. So
there you go. Those are our picks this week. Let us know who has the better team. My best bowlers are Jason Belmonte, Earl Anthony, and Norm Duke. Robert took Walter Way Williams Jr., Pete Weber, and Mark Roth. Let us know in the comments below. There you go. Weber cost you a vote. So I got the first vote. Let us know in the comments throughout the rest of the show. We will hopefully crown a winner by the time the show is over. Let's move on to the National Football League. I know this is what Robert Taylor has been waiting for. Other than this part, Weber wins always. Stop it. Of course, the heel,
so
Robert
is that
Taylor.
1-1 now.
He's the only bowler I think Robert Taylor knows is Pete Weber. But by the way, he spelled Weber wrong, so you don't get the vote. So that's Chris Webber, the basketball player that he is voting for, and neither of us picked him. DeAndre Hopkins has taken the money over a Super Bowl contender. 2-year deal, $26 million with the Tennessee Titans. Will he finally be able to break through with the Titans and become a really, really good wide receiver for them? We saw A.J. Brown do okay. Julio Jones kind of showed his age with the team. But can DeAndre Hopkins be that big number one that Tennessee's been looking for?
I laughed about this, and we're both friends of Tom Gossi. We both follow him, what he does. He is funny with his stuff, but he kind of made a good point. He wanted to go to a number one where he was going to be the number one team. But if you have not watched Tom Gossi, you should watch him do the little spiff on this. But yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think he'll be decent enough to take a little pressure off Derrick Henry. But I agree with Taylor. I don't think Ryan Tannehill is going to get him the passes that he is looking for. I think he will get his touches, but I don't think it's with the guy that he wants throwing him the ball all the time.
I also don't think DeAndre Hopkins is as good as people think he is anymore. He's made some fantastic plays, and he continue will be the great highlight reel. But I don't think he's that number one guy anymore, at least for a big team. And it'll be interesting. Actually, I like this move for the Titans. Like, Tannehill got hurt last year. Malik Willis definitely was not ready. And then it just completely imploded for Tennessee, who has been a perennial playoff team forever, partially because the AFC South just continues to be bad, and it's not that way anymore with Jacksonville. However, if you're the Titans, you have one team that you're competing with, and that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Going out, getting Hopkins gives you a better chance to top them and maybe steal that division still. When we get to our division previews, spoilers, I'm going to pick Jacksonville. But I think Tennessee has put themselves in a solid second place in that division. And at that point, anything can really happen to get you into the playoffs in an AFC that is just loaded with fantastic teams. I don't think this makes Tennessee a favorite by any means, but it definitely does not hurt their chances of making the playoffs.
Yeah, 100%. I think they get a little bit better, but I think it's, for me, it'll be interesting to see how much, the defense is set up against them. And you all know this. I love being the defensive minded person, but they got to the point where they had figured out this past season, you load the box, they take Derrick Henry out, and who are you going to throw to with A.J. Brown being in Philadelphia? So this is going to help a little bit, but I think they've got to find more pieces to the puzzle.
Evan Ingram agrees to a deal prior to the franchise deadline. I think it was really the only one to do so. 3 years, $41.25 million for the tight end. I like Evan Ingram. Works there for Jacksonville. Joe Mixon reworks his deal. Does that mean Cincinnati will be looking to add a piece here before the season gets going? We'll see. It kind of gives them a little bit more wiggle room as well. And now we have kind of gotten to that point where rookies are starting to report. 9 different teams reported today. Bills, Chargers, Chiefs, Dolphins, Falcons, 49ers, Giants, Ravens, and Saints all had their rookies show up to camp. A lot of teams will be showing up in full next week. Jets show up tomorrow. Browns on Friday. Obviously, those are the 2 Hall of Fame game teams, so they get to show up a bit early there. But you have the question, are we shocked that the big names are still there? And the big answer is not yet. Like, I'm not surprised yet, but if we get all 32 teams fully in camp and we have not figured out where Dalvin Cook is going, where Ezekiel Elliott is going, a few of the other names where they are going, it could be interesting. But I think a lot of teams were waiting till they got to camp and then make things work. I know that most of these names have come down to a couple of teams that they're down to. But I think once all the teams are in camp, if these big names have not been signed, then I will start to be surprised.
Yeah, I think the 2 big names for me that stick out there has got to be Cook, and then it's also, and I don't know if you heard over the top, but I said Ngakoue. I mean, great defensive guy, not just because he played for the Colts and the Ravens, but I think he is a standout defensive player, and I'm shocked that he has not found a home yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see some signings. Also, the NFL likes to have this thing where they are top of the headline. So Major League Baseball has their trade deadline over these next 2 weeks. Watch the NFL have these crazy signings happen while some of these trades are going on, so they can continue to focus in on the NFL. And yeah, the evaluation of the running back continues. I talked about it a few weeks ago. It's a mess. It's a complete mess, but it's going to work out because Cook is going to be part of the New York Jets, and that's all that matters.
Oh,
and I still love that you think Pacheco was a win. He's decent. I mean, he was good for a 7th round pick, but he's not a top 10 running back. That's not a win for you. You also CEH was a call out for you, and that completely failed. So you sir, calm down over there about your winning calls. Just because Pacheco was a leading rusher on a team that does not run, he didn't do anything. He was decent. He was a decent running back on a fantastic team. He didn't improve your odds of winning the Super Bowl. All right, let's get into it. Our NFL position rankings. We've done defenses. We did tight ends last week. It's now time for the wide receivers, and I am kind of shocked. Shocked that we have the same 5 names, just in a different order. Go ahead and give me your 5.
Well, are we starting from the top or the bottom? Let's go with that first.
Oh, wherever you want to go.
Well, I would say that I would do like a Kansas City Chief player, Scantling or Sky Moore, maybe, but no, sorry, Taylor. I don't have any Chiefs in my list, but for me, it's hands down. It is Justin Jefferson. The numbers he put up last year, 1,800 yards. I think the big thing is he's got to improve in his touchdown receptions. Only 8, doesn't hit double digits. I looked for him to hit double digits this year. So I think it's Justin Jefferson. I'm going to go Devontae Adams. I think Devontae is going to make a difference in the black and silver this year. He right at 1,500 yards last year, was in double digits. So I think it's there. That's
of course.
Yeah. I knew it was coming. Number 3, I'm going to throw out a Bengal, and just because that combination between between him and that's Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is just a stud of a wide receiver, just over 1,000 yards last year. I think he has a few more yards this next year, and I think he does hit the double digits in touchdowns. I'm going to go one guy, and I dropped him down a little bit, but I'm going to go Tyreek Hill at number 4. And the only reason I go down there where he's at, yes, he had 1,700 upgraded bum rush. Yes. I get Tyreek Hill, and I put him at 4. Yes, he had 1,700 yards receiving. A lot of that depended on who he had throwing to him last year. And I think
Did you hear what Tyreek Hill said on his podcast?
I don't listen to his podcast. No.
I only know this because they talked about it on Rich Eisen. He has said that he is going to top 2,000 receiving yards this year while winning the Super Bowl.
He's got big hopes and dreams.
He's locked it in. He's locked it in.
It depends on. It all boils down to who's going to throw to him, and I would love to see Tua throw it to him all the time, but I think he will have another year where it's going to be a fine line of him being out on the field. So, and then number 5, I'm going to take a local college boy, and I'm going to take Cooper Kupp. Cooper did have a little bit of a down year this past year, just over 1,800 yards. Yes, he was injured a bit of it, but he is the Rams offense on the receiving core. And he proved that. And I think he's a great receiver, but I'm going to keep him right at number 5.
St. Brown is a very interesting pick from Taylor, right? I don't think he's top 5 yet, but I think he could get into the top 5. Also notice that he wants to hate on Jamar Chase and not put him on his list, but that's okay. For me, my top 5, again, the same 5 names, just in slightly different orders. I agree with you. Justin Jefferson is number 1. The dude is insane for what he does. And, oh, yeah, by the way, it's still Kirk Cousins throwing to him, and he does okay. Jamar Chase, to me, is number 2. I think he has yet to really jump out to be as good as he has shown. I mean, numbers are just 87 catches, but he makes some fantastic plays. For me, it's Cooper Kupp. Number 3. He had 75 catches last year, and he played like half the year. I mean, he was really it for the Rams, who dealt with a ton of injuries, and he is such a go-to guy where if he doesn't have 10 receptions in a game, I think he's had an off day. He's not the splashy wide receiver that some of these other guys are, but he is just Mr. Reliable, and he's been fantastic for the Rams, and I think he's going to, if he stays healthy, have the most receptions by the end of this year. I have Devontae Adams 4. He did hit age 30, so does he take a step back a little bit? It's possible, but you can't take away from the talent that he has. And Tyreek Hill, super fast, has great hands. He's very tough to beat, and he and Waddle is still just such a great 1-2 combo, period.
So I'm going to bring this up, and it's just because
Burrow is better than Cousins. Calm down.
I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask Taylor the same question. Have either of you watched the series Quarterback yet with Patrick Mahomes and Kirk Cousins on that?
Nope, I have not. Netflix finally bumped us off our mom's account, so we have to sign up our own thing. So I've not watched the Netflix thing.
I'm just curious. I have not started it. I know that's probably going to be something I watch here in the next little bit. But...
And besides, it's not the NFL thing I want to watch. Hard Knocks with the Jets are coming up here soon. So
that's who Aaron Rodgers doesn't want. Well, here's the thing, Robert. I have not seen it yet. Robert asked me what's up. I have not seen it. I was curious if you had seen it yet, but I've seen commercial of it, so it'll be interesting to flow into, I should say.
Taylor brings up a good name with St. Brown. I think he is somebody that could be in our top 5 next year as he continues to step forward. And that's what I'll go in your direction. Who are a couple of names that you think might be just a year out from possibly battling to be in our top 5 when we do this again next year?
Wow.
That's a good joke. I make fun of Robert all the time. That's a good one. Well played, sir.
There's a couple of names that, they will always do their thing. I think that right now there's a little bit too much going on with Stephon Diggs to have him up there. I think Stephon Diggs top 10. Another name we didn't throw out there, and I'm going to throw it because it's a local team, but nothing being said about DK Metcalf. And so you haven't heard much coming out of him. But I was a huge Devontae Smith. I think Devontae Smith for Philadelphia makes a big jump this year. He might crack the top 5 by the end of this year.
You just went with 2 old people.
Devonta Smith. He's not that old.
Okay. I misheard the second one, but Metcalf is old. I'm leaning Chris Olave. If they can get things figured out with the Saints, I thought he is a fantastic talent. Could Calvin Ridley really connect?
Metcalf's only 25. Metcalf's
He's old. He's not these young pups I'm bringing up. I don't know how old Calvin Ridley is, to be honest, but actually, it's surprising that Metcalf is only 25. The man looks like he's 40. Mm-hmm. Partially because the dude is just jacked out of his goals. It's insane. But Calvin Ridley, he took a year off with his gambling stuff. Now with the new team.
Wait a minute. Took a year off? Or you make it sound like he decided he was going to sit on the beach and sip pina coladas and play.
No, he's been getting himself ready. He got traded to a better situation with the Jaguars. So could Calvin Ridley step up and possibly be in our top 5 next year? It's possible. There's a guy named Garrett Wilson for the Jets who was really good with the 3 worst quarterbacks in the league. So while I don't think Aaron Rodgers probably will not make our top 5 quarterbacks list in a couple of weeks, I'll just say that, even though I am hyped for what the Jets can do, it is still an improvement of what the Jets had. That's for sure. Goff would have been an impression. Go back to Robert's thing. I would rather have Cousins or Goff than what the Jets had last year. So that could be interesting. Waddle continues to improve for Miami. I think that's another interesting name. There's a lot of really interesting names in the wide receiver core that could really take a step forward. Yeah, A.J. Brown is up there as he continues to put up there. I think ESPN had him 7th on their list with, what was it, the GMs that did all the rankings over this last week or so. So, yeah, absolutely.
Well, there's lots of things, and Jesse hits it right there. You could say that Brown and Smith could be top 3 receiving combo going into this next year. But you and I both got on Detroit. I think St. Brown is not a bad pick. I would easily have it. I would have him in the top 10. But what that team was doing at the end of last year, it shows a lot of growth. But Goff is not the answer for that ball club, and that's the big part moving forward with Detroit.
Goff's been to a Super Bowl. That was a joke. He's still not good. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if we did top 10, if I would have St. Brown on that list still. He would be very much in consideration. I think he definitely will play his way onto it next year. But that's the thing is wide receiver is very, very deep, which continues to show why it's so silly that running backs are devalued. Yeah, you need multiple wide receivers, but still, running backs do so much. And we will talk about running backs next week. Let's get to some.
I would say ESPN. I just looked it up while you were talking. ESPN had St. Brown at 11.
There you go. So really, really close. Sports, quick hits, real quick. We don't talk basketball here, whether it's male or female, but
high school basketball.
Well, yeah, of course, the stuff that we cover here. But I'm gonna butcher her name, and I apologize. This is Brina Ionescu. Ionescu, is that how you say her last name? Scored 37 points in the 3-point contest during the WNBA All-Star break. It's the highest round for any competitor ever, male or female.
She missed 2 shots out of the entire thing.
Yeah.
I think you sent me the clip.
Yeah, I sent it to you. She missed the first shot.
The first one,
and very sure first shot, and she also missed Ionescu. Thank you. She also missed a money ball shot in her 4th rack. Obviously, the 3-point contest a little different than it used to be when Larry Bird was dominating this competition. Yeah, Larry Bird did not have 1 full rack of money balls. He also did not have the weird little Sprite balls or whatever were going on. The Wimbledon champs.
And he used to wear his warm-up jacket on too while he did it.
I did not watch the women's final, but I watched some of the highlights. First unranked women's champion of all time. I will not attempt to say her name. Maybe I will. Vondrausova. Just because Eric's here and he can correct me. But first unranked women's player ever to win Wimbledon. And I watched the last couple of sets. It was a really good one between Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz. Alcaraz had some fantastic shots in there. Both men could not stay on their feet. Djokovic was slipping all over the place there for a little bit. Both of them looked like they might have been hurt at some point. Continued to fight through 5 sets. Really, really fun. Final set went over 4 hours. So yeah, Wimbledon was a lot of fun. I didn't watch as much as I had. Yeah, I did not see this game that Jesse's talking about, the 26-minute game. I want to say it was in the third set. Yeah, see, that's why I don't attempt those names, as Robert is muted and not helping out. So yeah, Wimbledon was a lot of fun. Like I said, I didn't get to see that crazy game, but there were some fantastic points in those last 2 sets.
I wait for Alicia to write down pronunciations before I do anything.
Absolutely.
And I have to say this, and you said there's a lot of new talent coming in for LC volleyball. I'm looking forward to calling, because a lot of the names are a heck of a lot easier to read than some of our baseball players.
I have made that comment as well. I think the last one that they signed, Alicia was unsure exactly how to pronounce her name just yet. It was a little bit different, but yeah, there's a lot of names. I'm like, oh, I could say that one. So it'll be a little bit easier. Also, we brought up the Gold Cup earlier. Mexico comes away with the championship, defeating Panama 1-0. It was Panama that took out the USA in penalty kicks in the semifinals. USA had a ridiculous goal in that game against Panama just to push it in to those penalty kicks, but were unable to get it done. Speaking of soccer, Women's World Cup will begin on Thursday. USA gets things going with Vietnam on Friday. This is in New Zealand and Australia. So there are going to be some late night games for us to watch. Are you going to watch any of the World Cup?
It'll be interesting. I'm really wanting to watch the game on Friday. So it kind of depends on what time I want to get up and head up to Spokane on Saturday morning, as we couldn't get rooms Friday night. So it kind of depends if I want to stay up that late. But I know that USA, and I want to say what USA Philippines, right?
USA Vietnam.
Yep. Vietnam. And so I think it'll be a good one. I'll probably watch a few.
I probably won't watch the first match or two because, like you said, we're doing the bowling tournament that weekend. And while I have the second squad, so I don't have to bowl as early. I think I start at 2 on Saturday. Still probably won't stay up super late. And also, we'll continue with the soccer talk, as Messi was introduced for Inter Miami since our last show. Eric and I had kind of talked about that for a little bit. But with Messi now in MLS, will you watch an MLS game?
I still haven't watched an MLS game in years. But
Messi was not part of it.
I watched a little World Cup, but I did not watch. I don't even watch local high school soccer. So I got growing up, I was kind of forced to play for a few years and didn't really enjoy it. I mean, I still have some friends that I played with, but just never was my sport.
Real quick, we'll do a baseball update. I'm not going to bring up the scoreboard because I didn't have time to catch up because the offenses went insane today. Real quick, in a game that was suspended yesterday, the Giants beat the Reds 4-2. They are currently tied at 8 in the 6th inning. Phillies beat the Brewers 4-3. Dodgers over the Orioles 10-3. That's why we did not see Denny Grubb today. Guardians over the Pirates 10-1. Padres over the Blue Jays 9-1. Mets hold on to beat the White Sox 11-10. Not to be outdone, Diamondbacks beat the Braves 16-13. That's a football score for you. St. Louis over Miami 5-2. Kansas City over Detroit 11-10. And currently going on right now, Texas 1 out away from defeating Tampa Bay 5-3. Cubs all over the Nationals 15-3. They also have the bases loaded in the 8th. Colorado over Houston 4-3 in the 7th. Angels over the Yankees 3-1 in the 4th. A's over Boston 3-0 in the 4th inning as well. And Minnesota with a 5-3 lead over Seattle. That one in the 3rd. One thing I will bring up again as we have more people listening in, we do need more votes for our sports-related draft. It's tied 1-1. It was best male Pro Bowlers of all time. I got the first vote from Dwayne. You got the second vote from Robert Taylor. I have Jason Belmonte, Earl Anthony, and Norm Duke, while Robert with Walter Ray Williams Jr., Pete Weber, and old Mark Roth. So those were our votes earlier on in the show. If anybody listening would like to put in their 2 cents as to who won this week's draft. Sorry, Eric, your winning streak will be snapped this week, but I thank you very much for snapping Robert's winning streak last week. Let's get into some Aussie Rules football now. And Robert tells me, we talked about at the beginning of the show, he's been very busy, obviously helping out his wife who had surgery last week and being there for her. He did not watch a lot of sports this week, but he tells me he watches Geelong. No, just because you can't say his name. And yeah, it is a really close one. We got the top 6. That's how we feel. But Robert tells me he really watched one game all week, and that was Geelong's game. And I told him, what are you doing? Sydney and Western, while it did not go Eric's way at the end of that contest, was phenomenal. I watched the highlights of that game. It almost got topped with Melbourne and Brisbane. That game was fantastic, a 105-104 game there. Everything else kind of got spread out a little bit. Nice to see Hawthorn get a big win, which really kind of solidifies themselves in 16th place out of the 18 teams. Yeah, go Hawks. No wooden spoon for us. West Coast, again, continues to lose. They're 1-16. They're complete garbage. But, yeah, at least you watched Geelong win by almost 80.
And what's funny is that game – how many places they moved up the ladder. It was unbelievable. They were showing the live ladder in there and all that. Mm-hmm. And it was a crazy game, just outscoring. I don't think Essendon scored their first goal until midway the second quarter. So just unbelievable, but finally getting things in place. Geelong finally getting on a roll with some of these younger players that have been playing, and helped that Jeremy Cameron came back. He did get hurt there in the first quarter, but came back and played. But it was a great game. So I guess after you and I talked earlier, I'm gonna have to go back and watch the highlights of Western and in Sydney, and also Melbourne and Brisbane.
Yeah, they were good. Very, very, very good games. You look at your ladder right now. Only a few weeks left before the finals get going. Only 2 moves happen in the top 8, and they basically flip spots. Essendon and Geelong. Geelong now trying to somehow get up into that top 4, which would give them an ability to lose that first game. Again, if you've never watched Aussie Rules football, the top 4 all face each other in the first round. Winner gets a bye in the second round. The loser gets dropped into the loser's bracket. The bottom 4 all face each other. 5 versus 8, 6 versus 7. Winner moves on to play the loser of the previous mentioned games. Loser is out. I love this playoff format that Aussie Rules football does. It gives you incentive to get into that top 4 and not just go, well, we've made the playoffs. We will just go whatever, especially with no bye weeks set in with the 8 teams. But it's really interesting as far as who might still sneak into the ladder. GWS is just a couple of percentage points away from sneaking in there. Carlton and Richmond continue to move up, and they get close. So we're going to have a lot of races, and they do not need to expand anything. You have 18 teams. God, the expanding of these playoffs drive me up the wall. Earn it. Well, I want the best of the best playing each other, not, we've played this entire season, and now we will really play.
hmm And listen, this week, if you have not watched any of it, this is a week to watch the number 1 and number 2 team take on
Mhm.
each other. This is going to be, I think, a big matchup here. Geelong also takes on Brisbane, so we
That's
could
a good
inch our
game.
way closer. It's going to be a close one, of which it's not going to be on TV. But if you want to watch, there's some great ones coming up. Port Adelaide, like I said, Port Adelaide, Collingwood on Saturday morning. It's a DVR game. DVR, watch it. It's on FS2. Melbourne, Adelaide. That could be a big push for Adelaide to try to make it
Mhm.
up into the top. So lots of, like you said, not very many weeks left, but there's a lot of movement that can happen over the next couple of weeks. So again, if you haven't watched, God, guys, you got to jump on and start watching
Absolutely.
these.
By the way, I am looking at the TV schedule this week. Do not watch Carlton and West Coast,
Mm-mm.
especially if you have not watched the sport before. It will not. It's at the perfect time to watch 9:10 p.m. Pacific time on Friday, but don't watch. Also follow AFL on YouTube. They'll put some good highlights out there. If you're not afraid of getting spoiled, you can go to the AFL website the next day and watch the full match. There's ways to sneak around it and not see the score too, but a little bit extra work. But yeah, you can go back and watch all of these games. I love the covers that they do. Sport's a lot of fun. Period. Let's move on to golf real quick because Eric is around and we got to talk about something before you get into the results that happened over the weekend, partially because Rory McIlroy was a victor this week, but that is not what the headlines are about for the golfing world with Rory McIlroy, as this whole live PGA thing continues to be a giant headache for everybody. And did you hear what Rory McIlroy said about the possibility of ever playing on the live tour?
I did not.
Rory McIlroy came out and said that if live, yeah, well, we'll get to that too, Jesse, but if live was the only golfing tour around, he would retire. I love it. Screw that live golf tour. But yeah, before we get to the results, did you see Steph Curry's hole in one?
I saw a clip on Facebook that I believe PGA took it. Excuse me, I don't know if it was PGA or NBC Sports on their social media account had posted, and his sprint.
Yes.
How many yards it was to? I don't remember how many yards it was to the hole. And
I have an issue. I have an issue. Don't be running on the green, sir. You could damage the green for the people that are trying to play behind you. You walk on that green. No, absolutely not. It was fantastic. It was his reaction to it and running around and getting the crowd involved. I absolutely loved it. What I said before, total joke. But that is one thing I noticed. That he ran on the green. I go, oh, people are going to be pissed off. But it was a celebrity tournament. Nobody really cared. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, celebrity tournament in Lake Tahoe. So I have not went back and watched the highlights, but it's a great fundraiser for that group of people and what they do. So
give it up. Live is not a thing. Live is bad.
Yeah, that's good, Jesse.
That's I agree too.
Well, listen, we got to get you and I talked about it. You haven't swung a club since last golf and bowling. Nope. So as soon as you're done with, so here's the thing: as soon as you're done with bowling tournament this weekend, we've got to hit the driving range or get around to golf.
We bowl with a buddy of ours, Mike Iverson, who listens to the show sometimes. I basically have decided I don't want to swing a club because if I go a whole year without swinging a club and I go right into our competition, maybe my body will have just completely forgot that it slices the ball so bad. Maybe that's how I fix my slice, is just not to play until it's time to hit the ball then, and then we'll see what happens.
We really need we should have a camera guy out there following us around. If you would like to make a donation to our tournament, I'll drop our
calm down. We can't do any donations here. We are a college-based podcast / radio show. No donations.
I know.
No sponsorships. Those are rules. Please don't send us money.
Anyway,
this is a problem. What a brat. I know she's just right over here. It's all in the hips. I have a bad hip. That's why I have problems bowling more than once a week. That's why I'm worried about this week. It's all in the hips. I have
Well,
a bad one. I have
it'll
a
be
bad
interesting.
hip.
I don't think.
And it's
Hopefully,
Jesse Knight's fault as to why I have a bad hip.
and what's funny about that is we haven't said anything, and I told Denise about it. Mike Overson is buying a new set of clubs before our tournament. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Who knows? We were always last place after the golfing portion, anyways, and then we do our best to hopefully make the cash. I think we're the only team in that tournament's history to win money for having the worst golf score and still win money because we placed them the entire tournament.
Mm-hmm. Because we bowl like banshees.
Yeah,
all right.
But Jeff Keller's not here to blame, so I'm blaming you for sure. But yeah, Rory wins. Vincent Norman wins. Real quick, PBA, not much going on. We did talk about it. We'll talk about it next week, hopefully with positive thoughts. But a group of us will be up in Spokane to bowl the PBA Spokane Open Northwest Regional on Saturday and Sunday. Poor Tony Barden is the only one of us that's in the first group. Who else moved in?
Tom is.
Tom got moved. Tom got moved.
I haven't seen that yet.
Doof asked if they could be on the same squad, and that has been done. So poor Tony is the only one that's about 8 a.m. and gets to be our guinea pig. And then me, Doof, and Tom Doofenberg, along with Will Smith, who bowls in the area as well, all are on the second squad at 2 p.m. when it'll be 100 degrees outside. So we will see how it goes. Again, 80 bowlers, top 26 or 27 will make the cut. I'm just hoping to bowl over an average of 200, which would not make the cut, but I would be happy with it. And we'll see how it all goes. And I got my cool little Yankees bowling jersey that came in time. Got my name on the back. It's awesome. I love this thing.
Boy, what else?
No predictions? Truex? How about this? Give me a prediction. Out of the four names. Tony, David, and Tom, give us a place for all four of us. I'm putting it in the notes, and I want to see if you can get them right.
So
what position do all four of us finish?
Out of the 4 or the 5?
You can put Will in there too.
Yeah, because there's actually some other names I know that's in that
I know a few. I know Evan Nash and stuff. But...
Evan Nash is in there. Borgaro from Coeur d'Alene is in there. Russ Blau is in there. So it's going to be
just the 5 of us.
I'm putting you and Doof together above Tom and Tony.
No. Don't rank the 5 of us, because I could do that too. I want position. Where are we finishing in this tournament? 1 to 80. Give us a number for each of the 5 of us. What place are we finishing? I'm putting you on the spot right now. Go for it. You can put me 77th. I guarantee top 78. That's all I guaranteed is top 78. I can beat 2 people.
I think you're going to be in the top 40. So I'm going to put you.
That I would 41. Come back with a big smile on my face. You said top 40 and then you said 41. That's not top 40. That's the opposite.
I'm going to say 41. 41.
That's like saying Baltimore has a great quarterback because they have Lamar Jackson. They don't go together.
I think you and Doof finish right around the 40 mark.
Okay, give us numbers. I want to put them. I'm putting you on the spot. We got 2 minutes.
41 for you. 44 for Doof.
44 for Doof.
Yep.
All right. So I'm telling him that you said I'm going to beat him. That's great. Go ahead.
I think Tom struggles a little bit. Tom's going to stay up. He'll be in the 60s. 68.
Okay. What about Tony?
Tony.
Ooh, Haley's saying Tony's going to be bad. That's not good.
I'm going to put Tony at...
I also love that Haley has Doof basically being the bubble boy for making the cut. But go ahead.
I'm going to put Tony at... I'm going to put him at 38. 38. Just ahead of you.
We're just all in the middle. All right.
Yeah, just right all in the middle.
And the best one of them all, really.
I haven't seen Tom bowl in years.
So, what about Will?
Depends on how his bowling attitude is.
That's
He
true.
has days where he gets frustrated and he's down. I am going to put him at 54.
There you go. So he says Tony will be the best out of the 5 of us. We will see, and we'll talk about the experience next week. I know Haley will be up with me. You and Jim will be up there to root us on. Maybe take some video and laugh at the horribleness that is going on up there. I wanted to bring that up instead of NASCAR because New Hampshire was boring. It was a weird Monday race. Martin Truex dominated it. They all kind of just spread out. New Hampshire is a cool track, but it's just so flat and slow that is just tough to really get into. Oh, yeah, and Poconos next week. I don't care.
Yeah. And the other one, your favorite golf tournament of the year is this weekend, the Open.
Yes.
As they are playing in England. So so you'll be watching that probably on just highlights, but
most likely highlights. I'll be kind of focused on the bowling. But yeah, I love the Open. I love kind of the British style of golf and the weird golf courses that they have out there and the sinkhole bunkers and all the stuff they have going on.
Just crazy.
It is fantastic. But that's going to do it. Anybody out there, we need a vote. We need a vote for our sports-related drafts before we get out of here because we're tied, and I don't like ties. So there you
Come
go.
on.
We need a vote. Jesse,
I think Haley needs to vote for me.
We got to vote. Eric said it was tough, but he never came up with a solution. While we look at that, Angels now 5-1 over the Yankees. Yankees need to be sellers. It's just where it is. Mariners losing to the Twins. I'll go, Randy. There you go. That's the end of the show before anyone else can vote. I win. See ya. Have a good night. That is the R&R Sports Report right here on Facebook and YouTube and all the other stuff. That's
I got screwed again.
I'm Randy Isbell, the winner of the sports-related draft. And we'll be back.
Who do you think?
Now. Hey, Haley voted for me too. Now it's really locked in. All right. Everyone have a good one. We'll see how this weekend goes. But until then, we